Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. So today we're going to be going over a post that got linked a bunch of times in my Matrix chat, which is linked down below. And this comes from the Linus Tech Tips subreddit. I almost said Linus Tech Tits. Linus Tech Tips. Say it 3 times fast without saying. It's very difficult. Anyway, this was on the front page the other day, and I thought I would go over it because well, I just thought it would be an interesting topic here. So it says, throwaway account, going to anonymize and change relevant details as needed to avoid doxing. Remember this tweet, the one where Linus showed off all the Teslas his employees could afford? Yeah, all 3 employees out of around 60 to 70 at the time, 2 of them were owned by managers, and the others, someone who owned it long before working there. What about this WAN show, actual WAN timestamp, if they remember to take down the clip, merch message, where Linus is asked about Linus Media Group staff unionization, and says if Linus Media Group did, he and Yvonne would consider it a personal failure, and calls out brazen anti-organizing policies in the States, and then says, I don't really feel like employees need additional protections, to be perfectly honest with you, and goes on to talk about at-will employment rules in the States while falsely stating that Canada is not at will. These are comparable to Linus's adage, do as I say, not as I do, which he applies to what seems to be every area of his business. He makes a big deal out of Linus Media Group being a great place to work, but he either lacks the necessary work experience or is out of touch due to his prior employment history, as Linus Media Group is a poor place to work. Another significant factor is expected workload and pay structure. Writers earn between $55,000 and $60,000 a year and are instructed to release a video every week. Oh no! They have to write, build, prepare, shoot, and get the video to the editors for review each week with essentially no backup. It appears to be hell. There is no incentive for them to change this since, in Linus's own words, we can't not do 7 a week anymore. Therefore, instead of employing more writers to pick up the slack and give them a 2-week schedule or better, they constantly rush around and leave a huge mess for logistics and others to clear up. Think of all the new hire names in the end of the credits videos you've seen before. All for the chance to have the opportunity to reside in a city where the annual living salary is $55,000, slightly over the poverty line, for a physically exhausting, intellectually taxing job. Linus talks about making sure every employee can buy a house in Vancouver, but that's bullcrap, empty promises. Nevertheless, if you're fortunate enough to survive your first year, they might raise your pay to another roughly $65,000 plus a bonus structure, which is fascinating because I've heard it's actually a tactic to sort out those who don't want to work there. And it affects everyone, not just writers. Pay low to see who leaves, then raise their pay after determining whether or not they can handle a demanding workplace. I'm going to save comments until the end because there's so many things here that trigger me. Also, there is a lot of tension because the necessary effort is never well supported, because the goal is to simply release something and sort it out later rather than to do it effectively, which is why a bunch of the launch videos lately have errors in them, because the goal is not to be done well, it's just to release something at all and figure it out later. Oh, and remote work? Forget it. Linus Media Group hates working from home, and that's because Linus hates working from home. It was initially introduced for COVID, but has since been reduced to a maximum of 2 days a week. They have repeatedly stated that this is a hard cap, and there are rumors that they intended to eliminate it entirely by the end of the year. For those who can work entirely remotely, such as editors, buyers, designers, and LTTstore.com support employees, it makes no sense. However, Linus doesn't give a damn, because he hasn't worked a real job in more than a decade. Keeping track of hours is also bad. Everyone is paid hourly, including those who are compensated as salary, because timekeeping is required even for managers. However, there is no clock-in, clock-out system involved. Instead, you simply enter your job hours on a Google spreadsheet. Due to management's strong disapproval of paying overtime, if you work an additional 15 minutes at the end of the day to complete a video or clean up your workspace, it's too bad, so sad, you won't get paid for that. Linus Media Groups gets all signs of free time work without pay because you aren't putting in the time you're in and time you're out for those extra 10 minutes here, 5 there, 30 like a normal workplace. That's kind of fucked up. But Linus Media Group is a bad place to work and nothing is being done to improve it. According to what I've heard, they've recently implemented a retirement program. By the way, never trust somebody that includes extra letters in a word. Program is spelled P-R-O-G-R-A-M. P-R-O-G-R-A-M. Adding an M-E to the end of it, that's almost as bad as paying people with Canadian money instead of dollars. Which is great, but I'm confident everyone would prefer it if they would use that money instead to fix the things that are broken. there was always a lot of resentment about the way things are done here, and there's always a lot of whispering behind management's back. Yeah, as opposed to the type of job where people don't say things when the manager leaves the room. But speaking up to anyone in management is heavily frowned upon because of the explicit anti-union and anti-employee attitude. Hi, Paul. People have been actively disciplined for talking about wages before this, so don't let him weasel out of this and say it means you can share other people's wages, but you're fine to talk about your own, because that is false. And if others choose to speak up, they can corroborate it. I know of at least one person who still currently works there who's had this happen to them. Okay, so we're going to go over this piece by piece. Piece by piece. Okay, let's go over this, because some of it, some of it has a point. So the first one, remember this tweet where Linus showed up all the Teslas that his employees could afford. 2 of them are owned by managers, and the others someone who owned it before working there. Okay, so like he's responding tongue-in-cheek to people claiming that he's a shit employer. I don't really care about this one, to be honest with you, because when it comes to cars, I know people that are worth over $1 billion that drive 20-year-old pieces of shit, and I know people that have no money whatsoever that drive cars that cost $20,000 more than my own vehicle. I know people that make probably half what my receptionist makes that drive cars that cost $30,000 more than my own vehicle. People, when it comes to cars, it's just okay. I mean, I get the point, but it's like managers are employees too. Like, I have a manager who works here. He's also an employee. Maybe he didn't know if the guy owned it before working there. I don't know. That just seems like a really lame dunk. Again, it's in my opinion, it's Linus. Like, Linus is kind of bringing this on himself by even doing this. Essentially, what he's doing by taking this picture of the Tesla and saying, I hear Linus Media is an abusive employer that doesn't pay well, is he's accepting the premise of assholes, which is that I need to respond to somebody saying on the internet, somebody anonymously making fun of me on the internet. So like somebody anonymously, ribs you on the internet and you respond to it. Admittedly, I'm guilty of this as well, and I shouldn't be doing this shit. But when you do this, you're accepting the premise of assholes. There was actually this post on Reddit earlier today. It was, am I the asshole? And this guy saying, like, my girlfriend essentially accused me in a joking way of being a rapist at a party, and she was kind of describing me as if I am a rapist, and I was aggravated at this, am I the asshole? And it's like, I had said on my post in that thread, you can go through my Reddit post history, is like, I don't understand this whole like, well, honey, you really probably shouldn't have said that. That wasn't very funny. It's like, no, you just leave. Like, you have a standard for how people treat you, and you leave. You don't. And somebody responded to me saying, well, he should have responded back saying, no, that's not exactly what happened. This is actually what happened. And at that point, you're essentially accepting the premise that if somebody falsely accuses you of something massively screwed up, that you're actually supposed to start saying, well, no, that's not true, honey, instead of just leaving the person that did that. This is, yeah, anyway, Luke, eat it, dick, bro. I don't know what the you're not even paying attention to the video. Get the fuck out of my chat. Anyway, this, like, I just don't see the reason for that. There's like, it's okay. So like one of his employees has a car, like people shit on Linus. So he took a picture of his employees having a car that cost like $40,000. I don't know. Moving on, where Linus is asked about staff unionization, and Linus said he would consider it a personal failure. Honestly, I felt the exact same way. Like, now don't get me wrong. If I owned a $2 million house and, like a Mercedes S580 and like, did the MC Hammer thing of having cars with paint that changes colors and shit, and like my employees wanted to start a union, like I kind of understand that. But like at my point, I would feel like it's a failure. It would be like people felt like if they thought they were in an unfair situation, they couldn't talk about it. And I think honestly, most small business owners probably feel the same way. I think I can understand the argument that here to some extent that he's maybe out of touch at this point in time with how somebody making $50,000 for him may feel once you get to the point of being a multi-millionaire. But yeah, I mean this is normal. I think if you'd ask most people that have a small business, they would feel like they failed if their staff all said we want to unionize, because essentially that means that they feel like they can't walk into the office and say, this is not fair, this is screwed up, this is what I would like my working conditions to be better. Once you're at the point where your employees feel like they can't walk in to talk about that, you're either a giant ass company, or B, a douche. I think that think that that is really necessarily a bad thing. Now, the part where he says, I don't really feel like employees need additional protections, to be perfectly honest with you, and goes on to talk about at-will employment rules in the States while falsely stating Canada is not at will. I think the reason that he's kind of mad at this is because, at least from reading Linus's Twitter, I don't really know his politics and shit personally. He comes off as a very kind of highly left-leaning, like Bernie-ish kind of dude, and there is this problem, that this thing that I've noticed where a lot of people who say this stuff very often don't live it. Like one example I've talked about a lot in the channel is there was a place a few blocks over that paid considerably less than we did, and I think they had a teenager at one point. It was one of those things where, like, you know, the owner's nephew was doing the counter because he can pay him $5 an hour, whatever kind of thing. And people would say, well, that place is, you know, $10 less than you. Why don't I go there? And I would point to the Bernie sticker on the laptop that said like fight for 15 on it and go, you know, the people here make more money than the 12-year-old that's working the counter at that place. Just so you know where your extra $5 or $10 is going. Where your extra, like, I think maybe the argument to be made there. I think the argument can be made there that, like, you know, you're not living up to your particular ideals. But again, when it comes to people who tend to have those political opinions, in my experience, it's always been that they think that it applies to other people, not them. So I could kind of understand how that could be making somebody aggravated. Yeah, like, again, the amount of times people with a Bernie Sanders for president or fight for 15 sticker, when I say this is $65, and they go, the guy down the block does it for 55, and I would go, the guy down the block has a fucking 12-year-old working the counter. I'm like, the person that's doing that repair here is getting $30 an hour. Like, I'm just saying, you got the sticker over here, and I got a couple of 1-star reviews for it that eventually they deleted when I responded to it. But yeah, it's been my experience that, at least in my life, that a lot of people that espouse those opinions don't actually see it. And I can get that. I can understand why that would make somebody angry. To be clear, I understand that, but that doesn't. I don't think that makes somebody a shit employer. Like, to be clear, I am 100% with Linus here, which is if all my staff said, like, we're starting a union, I'd feel like, fuck, I really treat people shitty enough that they feel like they need a union. Like, that would, yeah, it kind of made me a little sad. I'll be honest. I feel like I fucked up there. Now, again, if I were driving around a Mercedes S580, I had a $10 million house, all this other shit, and everybody here was making $40K, yeah, I kind of understand the union. But I think most small business owners think that. Continuing on here. These are comparable to Linus's adage, do as I say, not as I do, which he seems to apply to every area of the business. He makes a big deal out of making Linus a great place to work, but he lacks the necessary work experience or is out of touch due to prior employment history, as it's a poor place to work. Okay, so the next is the writer's thing. So again, you get $55,000 to $60,000 a year, and you have to make a video every week. Okay, so you make 55 to, let's see, somebody here says, unions will take your money and leave you stranded. I agree with Mitt, even if I had a great boss, I'd still advocate with the rest of the staff to unionize the official avenue of employee-employer relations. Like for instance, I would give you an example. So like at this company, like there's a technical number of sick days people get that's like listed in the Gusto payroll shit, but like I really don't usually keep count of that thing. So like I would imagine unionization to occur when somebody says, I get 14 sick days, but I believe I should get 21. But if you tell people, like, you get unlimited sick days, and then they're like, well, we want to unionize, I don't know. I guess it depends on the type of company, what we're talking about. Oh, Cam, let me add you as a mod here. Here, Cam, you'll be a managing moderator. You can remove all the shitty crypto spam. Yeah, writers earn between 55 and 60K. Okay. Now, maybe Canadian dollars are trash. Let's see. What is a Canadian dollar worth? What is a Canadian dollar? Okay, that comes out to like 44,586 US dollars. Okay, so like a writer at Linus Tech Tips makes less than logistics or customer service does here. Okay, I mean, I could kind of see that. Yeah, 44K is kind of, in 2023, that's really kind of stretching it. Let's see, what would, 55 to 60K. What would 55,000 be? Damn, Canadian dollars, nothing. Okay, that's like 40K a year. So if you're talking about full time, that's like $20 an hour. So I will let chat go over this here. Okay, $20 an hour to write and prepare YouTube videos for a professional YouTuber. Is that good or shit? Good or shit? So that the approximate, when you do like 40 hours a week, 50, 48, 52 weeks a year, whatever, like the approximate, it comes out to like a 40-hour work week. Is that good or shit? What would you say? Pet the cat and use these money for the Greenie fund. Thank you, Greenie. Okay, so the majority are saying shit. Somebody said really good. With kids, that's nothing. Minimum wage is 15. Okay, so it's like 20 or 30% above minimum wage. British Columbia is expensive. Okay, so are we talking like New York expensive or like Austin expensive versus like Austin? Are we talking like Austin versus Temple in Texas expensive? Or are we talking like San Francisco, Palo Alto expensive? California expensive. Okay. Yeah, I don't know how much money he makes off of this stuff. Like bottom, like a lower level position here is usually like 23 or 25. But I don't know how much work is involved in the writing of the videos. They have to write, prepare, build, shoot, and get the video to the editors for review each week with essentially no backup. It appears to be hell. There's no incentive for them to change this, since in Linus's words, we cannot do this amount a week anymore. Amelia says, go back to border pairs. Chris is not you and don't have this thing. Chris is way better than me at this job. You have no idea. Chris shits on me for border pair. Nevertheless, let's get on to the next. Offer the chance to have an opportunity to reside in a city where the annual living salary is $50,000, slightly over the poverty line for a physically exhausting, intellectually taxing job. Linus talks about making sure every employee can buy a house in Vancouver, but that's bullcrap, empty promises. I've felt the same way too, but I've admittedly kind of fallen short there. Like, I think every employer wants their own employees to be able to buy a house in the area they're in. That's what I hated about living in New York City, because I couldn't fucking buy a house. I guess I could if I was willing to have a shitty mortgage up to my eyeballs and live in an absolute dump. It's just that I didn't really want to do that. Every employer wants their employees to be able to buy a house somewhere. And I haven't heard him say that. I've heard him say that he wants people to be able to do that. I've never heard him say that he is actually making sure every employee can do that. If you have one of the entry-level jobs at a business, you're probably not going to buy a house in an expensive city, almost like regardless of where you work. I could understand why the employees would be aggravated if the boss is going out of their way to say that. Nevertheless, if you're fortunate enough to survive your first year, they might raise your pay to roughly $65,000 plus a bonus structure, which is fascinating because I've heard it's actually a tactic to sort out those who don't want to work there, and it affects everyone, not just writers. Pay low to see who leaves, then raise their pay and determine whether or not they can handle a demanding workplace. I made $25 an hour, and this is from Paul. I made $25 an hour for IT work in 2005 in a much lower cost of living area, so I think it's kind of shit, but Linus Tech Tips has been massively expanding, going from like 50 to 100 employees in the last year. Yeah, that's a lot of people. Okay, pay low to see. Okay, so this seems like a normal thing. Like, I think most businesses pay people lower when they first hire them, and then like if they don't suck overall, then they wind up paying them more later. So like I think it's a normal thing to pay people less in the beginning, and then like when you see, oh, you're not crazy, you consistently do a good job, you don't have a drug addiction, you don't punch a hole through a table because your wife cheated on you, because that's never happened before at Ross Repair Group. Like once you realize everybody is sane, then fight in a ring of Jello with Linus for charity. I don't know about that. That seems kind of weird. Why do you want to see me in Jello? Like if you said celebrity boxing, that's one thing, but Jello? Bruh, that's a weird fucking kink, man. That's a really weird kink. But like back to this. I think it's normal for most companies to do that. Like they pay you lower in the beginning and then they pay you more later once they see that you're actually not crazy. Now, obviously, it's like, it depends on the ranges here. And again, the 40K thing is, I could kind of see, again, like 55,000 a year comes out to 40,000 USD. That's kind of shit for a major city. I could see that as a job if your job was essentially like the most, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that, how to put this? Like if you were looking for people to clean the toilets or something, just so that you all didn't have to do it yourself, or like I could see for the lowest level job, maybe as an entry level thing. Average house price is $1.16 million Kanakistan. Okay, what's 1.16 million Canadian dollars? Because this shit, I don't know. This shit ain't real currency to me. I gotta. Okay, so an average house price or median is 862,000. Okay, so that's kind of like living in Long Island, I'd say. That's like living in Malvern or Fort. This is kind of like Cliffside Park, New Jersey. Okay, this is kind of a New York price there. That's a New York price. So you have 40,000 bucks. That's what I would be looking to pay somebody. That is like an entry level out of high school kind of thing. I probably like an entry level out of high school kind of thing, or like the lowest level employee. Like let's say somebody who's, again, because that comes out to like 19, 20 bucks an hour, probably like 18 or 20 bucks an hour. I'd be doing that for somebody who is pretty much not able to advance, is at the absolute bottom, needs a lot of work, needs a lot of oversight and micromanagement to actually get something done, which honestly is something you probably shouldn't be hiring somebody at that point. And it's almost better at that point to kind of do the work yourself. And also, there's usually a lot of tension because the necessary effort is never well supported. Because the goal is to simply release something and sort it out later rather than do it effectively, which is why a bunch of the launch videos have errors in them. I mean, I think I can't really criticize there because there's a company of 100 people is again like it's very difficult to keep up with the schedule you need to produce shit for on YouTube. And if you have 100 employees, yeah, you're going to have to release one video every single day or every other day. You're going to have to be filming every single day in order to actually pay 100 people. I don't know if a lot of people realize like the amount of YouTube channels that can afford to pay 50 to 100 people on staff just from the YouTube shit. That's like 0.0001%. Oh, and remote work, forget it. Linus hates working from home, and that's because Linus Media Group hates working from home, and that's because Linus hates working from home. It was initially introduced for COVID, but has since been reduced to a maximum of 2 days per week. They've repeatedly stated this is a hard cap, and there are rumors that they intend to eliminate it entirely by the end of the year. For those who can work entirely remotely, such as editors, buyers, designers, and LTTstore.com support employees, it makes no sense. However, Linus doesn't give a damn because he hasn't worked a real job in more than a decade. Ouch. So yeah, for my business, I've always been, like, I don't have any working remotely shit because there's not really much here you can do remotely. Like, okay, receive packages and ship them. I don't know how you do that remotely. Fix a hard drive with broken heads. Like, until robot arms get good enough, I don't know how Steve's going to be able. I guess maybe robot arms may be good enough now. It's just the machine to do that shit would probably cost more money than my entire net worth. Customer service can be done remotely, but only if you're talking about the email side. And Cam used to do a very good job of that. So email customer service can, but it's not the same because like one of the things here is you can just, if you're not sure how a machine is in the queue, like you could literally just walk up to it and go, oh yeah, this is filled with shit versus, oh, this is only mild liquid damage. This is probably going to be easy. Like that's the type of stuff you could do in person. You can't do remotely. Even for email customer service, I'd be open to email customer service being all remote. But the problem is we have people that actually walk in. So it's kind of difficult to do the whole, like when you have a retail store, it's very difficult for the walk-in person to do that. I want Tim Cook to open me up and fix me at his Apple store. That's gay. That's kind of weird. Honestly, even if that was heterosexual, that would kind of be gay. That would be kind of weird. Yeah, I mean that's kind of weird either way. Honestly, that's kind of weird. Yeah, that's strange. I mean, again, hasn't worked a real job in a decade. Again, this comes back to the whole what is a real job thing. Like again, if a real job is working in the salt mines, then sure, or working at H-E-B grocery store. But like, what is a real job? What is a real job? I mean, he shows up in his videos. He does stuff. I mean, I don't. Keeping track of hours is also bad. Everyone is paid hourly, including those who are compensated a salary because timekeeping is required even for managers. However, there is no clock-in, clock-out system involved. Instead, you simply enter your job hours on a Google spreadsheet. Due to management's strong disapproval of paying overtime, if you work an additional 15 minutes at the end of the day to complete a video or clean up your workspace, it's too bad, so sad, you won't get paid for that. Linus Media Group gets all kind of free time work without pay because you aren't putting in the time you're in and the time you're out for those extra 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 30 minutes there, like a normal workplace. Okay, that's fucked up. There's no way around it. That's fucked the fuck up. That's not the way a workplace is supposed to work. So I used to have a time clock system where you punched in, you punched out. My biggest complaint with that system is that people hated it because they always forgot to punch in and punch out. And it wound up driving management crazy, and people hated having to deal with the punch in and punch out shit. So we eventually just went back to the like, let me know if you have overtime at the end of the week thing. So, so the only time that shit like this has happened here, I've always told people, like, punch in if you're early, punch out if late, if you're staying late, if you're working. Like, there have been times where people feel really, really bad because they spent half an hour extra on a board that they couldn't fix. And like, Chris has come to me with this, like, no, I am not staying. They're like, I will fuck you up if you don't punch out. If you punch out and then go back to your desk to work on a board, like, fuck that. You're not doing that. You get paid a flat salary, whether you fix 10 boards a day or 0. If you spend an extra half hour on a board and you're not able to fix it, I fucking pay for that. That's the deal. That's being a business owner. But like, the weird thing is, it depends on how it is. Like with punch-in, there's no actual interaction with a manager. It's just you're punching in and out. But whereas if you have a system where it's like salaried, or a bro system, which a lot of small businesses are, which is, you know, I'm automatically going to have you on the clock for like 8 to 4 or 9 to 5. But if you work over, let me know. You're creating a conflict point. And Linus may not see it this way. Somebody actually brought it up. Scroll down here. What is it? Yeah, I recall Linus on occasion being serious with employees during live stream, telling them make sure that they are putting in overtime for their working, make sure you submit for that and whatnot. It at least shows an effort to ensure non-exempt employees are being compensated. And it says, it sounds like the standard corporate disconnect. Linus doesn't want people to not get paid, but he also doesn't want to pay for a bunch of overtime, so he tells his managers that he needs to make sure people aren't working overtime. So yeah, this is the kind of thing that could, like, this is a standard thing that winds up happening. Like, here, I'll give you one example. Let's say that I say everybody needs to get paid for overtime, or like, I'm the company owner. I say everybody needs to get paid for overtime. I have the manager in the office, and I say, like, this month we lost $7,000. And we don't have a punch clock system. We have the system where you have to manually walk over to a manager and said, I worked 2 hours of overtime this week. The manager is stressing about the fact that the company lost money, and the employee's like, I'm not going to walk over there to tell him I did that because I'm just going to piss him off. It's not worth it. Screw it. So the company wasn't even trying to take it away from the employee, but they could create this kind of culture where it's a walk of shame to walk over to the manager and say that it's a walk of shame to walk over to the manager and say that you worked overtime. Like, you can be creating that. So even if you are telling people, always tell me what your overtime is, if you've created this environment where there's shame involved, then, like, again, you really have to be aware of that shit. And this is why I say, you know, your employees are not your friends, because there are just these small things that your friends can tell you that it's just going to be different when you have people that have a different power dynamic. On Wan's show, Linus claims he worked 12 to 15 hours a day for years, and part of the hiring so much is so everyone, including him, can get to 8 to 10 hours a day for work-life balance. Might just be spin. I mean, I don't know. I believe that he probably works 12 to 15 hours a day. Hey, listen, it ain't easy to become a multimillionaire off YouTube. 99% of the people that try are not going to do it, because they're not going to be willing to put in that much work. But yeah, it's very easy for you to have a company culture that gets to this. We actually switched back off the punch clock system when we moved here. I just asked everybody, like, I'm going to put it to a vote. Do you want punch clock, or do you want normal, like me to just assume that you did 40 hours, and if you did more, you just walk over and tell me that you did more? And everybody decided, like, fuck the punch clock system. We hate the punch clock system because people were constantly forgetting to punch in and out. And it's aggravating for everybody. But you have to understand at that point, then it's on you as the employer to walk around everybody and say, did you have overtime? And also not shame them for having it. And that's something that can really kind of get lost. The problem I see with LTT is the pay combined with the anti-competing makes them sign. And anti-compete? Oh, fuck that. Anti-competes are shit. I'm very against anti-competes. I'm surprised that wasn't mentioned here. I'm massively against anti-competes. I mean, I believe in free market capitalism, but I also believe you should be a big part of what makes that shit work is the ability to switch. If I'm a cunt to my people, they need to be able to, like, fucking leave and go somewhere else. Like, if you break iFixes, I don't know, I'll give you $60 an hour. Like, I would, you know, you played the game better, you know? Like, my manager has been here for 10 years. And it's because I stole him from someplace else. Funny thing, the person who I hired a year before the manager, who worked at that same place, he actually signed a non-compete at this business. I think it was Laptop MD. He told me he signed a non-compete. So when I hired him as a janitor. And on his check, it would mention that he's a janitor, so that he was not a tech. And technically, it's kind of true because like he's cleaning motherboards. We do liquid damage repair and shit. But yeah, I got him around his non-compete. You know, he was working for like 17 bucks an hour. They would fuck him around on his sick days and his paid vacations. So at the time, this is like 10 years ago, back when 28 bucks an hour actually meant something. He was like one of the best technicians I ever had. So I gave, you know, he got $10 extra, and he also got to take more paid vacations than he did before. And it's like, you know, if you want to keep him, fuck the non-compete, pay him better. Again, this was actually 11 years ago now. This was 11 years ago. Like 28 bucks an hour back then was actually like, I mean, that was, again, it actually meant something in 2012. Now, who the fuck knows? Love the channel, appreciate you. Thank you. Now, the part where, again, I can understand the low pay, but when they said we have to do one video a day, the top comment on this thread is one I really agree with. You're complaining that writers are expected to produce an episode a week. Okay, that's what they're hired to do. Might be there be specific issues, but that maybe that this is bad just because is absurd. I agree with that as well. But LTT lost my respect with the ad block as piracy take, but this takes the cake. I'm surprised anyone would support him. Honestly, like it's only the only thing I disagree with here is the wage shit. Because again, it is very, very easy for you to say. It's very, very easy for you to say that everybody needs to stay clocked in. But if you tell your manager, we're losing money, we're fucked right now, and the manager is like acting all stressed, and now you get to essentially outsource it. So this is something that can be easily done. Like I could look like the good guy, whereas somebody else winds up shaming everybody into not using overtime. And then I still get to say I care about people clocking in while simultaneously having my lieutenant not actually punch people in for their overtime. So it's very easy for that type of dynamic to be created, even while not. The anti-compete is while working, they're not leaving. I think it's justifiable given they have proprietary info from companies. What type of proprietary info are we talking about here? I honestly wouldn't even mind if that thing happened here. Like, again, when Steve clocks out of his job, if he wants to go recover shit, if he wants to go recover, you know, something for like, you know, werecoveredata.com or something, like, again, I'm not paying you while you're off the clock. I don't get to say what you do when you're not here. Now, if I want to say what you do when you're not here, then I should pay you for that. Like, if instead of you working from 11 to 7, I want you to only be thinking about this job from 11 to, let's say 11 to 10 instead of 11 to 7, I feel like I got to pay you for those extra 3 hours. But yeah, with the wage thing, like it's very easy to create that and not even realize you're creating it. Like, I'll give you one story on my behalf. I'm a piece of shit for this. So a few years ago, I gave one of my employees. How many of you are familiar with Chris? So I gave Chris a sizable Christmas bonus. Where's Chris? Let's get a video with Chris. Here we go. This is Chris. He's the best border pair person I've ever met. I'll be honest. He kicks the shit out. He's way better than me at border pair. He makes me look horrible at border pair. He's way better than me at everything. Like, there's no other way to say it. But he's very smart. Way smarter than me. But anyway, back to the point. So I gave him a Christmas bonus. And then he told me, like, a few weeks later, like, his wife was complaining or something about the fact that he worked all through Christmas. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Why are you reading those? And he showed me there was this Rusalib book that he was reading. He read through the PC 3000 manual. He was reading all this shit online. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? This is your time off. You're all supposed to be off for Christmas. What are you doing? And he actually took the Christmas bonus that I gave him. He divided it by his hourly pay at the time and said, I thought I was supposed to work for that time, so I had to find something to do because the store was closed. Motherfucker, work. That's a bonus. Okay, maybe they don't have. My first job on Long Island was $37,000 in 2018. Now I'm outside Nashville, just shy of $50K. Yeah, it probably goes a lot further in Nashville than it does in Long Island, doesn't it? Anyway, my point being, again, I don't know. Maybe they don't have fucking Christmas bonuses in Poland. Maybe they don't. I don't know. I've never been to Poland. But the point is, you can create a culture where people make these types of assumptions if you're not very clear. So like, I probably should have been clear and walked over and said, by the way, this extra money in your paycheck this week, that is not overtime that I'm going to claw back from you if you don't show me that you spent your Christmas break doing work. That is called a bonus. That's called like a thank you for not quitting. Thank you for working here. Like, I appreciate that you haven't quit and gone to open your own business or go to work for the competition. So it's a holiday. So here, if you're not very clear about these things in ways that you may not imagine, people may get the wrong idea. And like, you're not going to understand this until it finally clicks. Oh, I'm not working with my friends anymore. I'm an employer. I'm a boss. Like, back in 2009 and 11, I remember, one of my best friends, Jake, he used to help me with my business. We were good friends at the time. I was completely broke. I couldn't afford better. And he was also broke working at the shit job he had at the time, where the boss half the time wasn't able to actually pay him on payday because he was broke. He was a cocaine addict, so he would constantly not pay his employees. But that's a totally other story. Anyway, I would ask Jake for help, and I would say, like, I'd say, I need some help packing this stuff. FedEx is, the pickup is 4 o'clock. It's 3:30. I'm screwed. These people are going to be mad at me. And he would help me pack shit. And I'd buy him a chicken roll on Amadeus. Like, that was our deal. Like, I get you a chicken roll, you help me ship. And that was camaraderie. I was a friend. We were on the same level. But like, eventually your business grows out of this thing where you're just hiring people that are your friends, and you're actually hiring people that are, that have less money than you, or have less education, or have less say or power to be able to do shit. Like, you're the owner of the company, you're the boss, and it's just, shit changes. And if you still have that feeling in your head that I'm just, quote, working with my friends, then you may create these types of work environments without even having any idea that you did it. And, again, that's something that happened to me. As I said once, I'm never going to forget Chris saying, like, I spent entire Christmas break reading through PC 3000 and Rousselot manual, and I think I really get. I'm like, Chris, why the fuck aren't you spending time with your wife on Christmas? And he's like, oh, the money you gave me. I'm like, that's a fucking Christmas bonus, bro. And it's like, I've learned you got to be very, very clear with this shit, because as time goes on, it sucks balls, man. It sucks balls, Christoph. So you wind up having to buy donor boards that cost $200 or $300. See, this is the part that sucks. Go to archive.org. I used to charge $250 for motherboard repair. Back in the day, board repair was $250. Now I have to give people a range in the newer models of $325 to $625. And people say, why is there such a wide range? Because your model may require I buy a $300 donor board that half of the parts don't even work on. It really sucks. It really sucks. This business is getting, honestly, Apple's kind of winning when it comes to the whole right to repair shit. They're kind of winning. They're actually doing really well at, like, making it more difficult for people like us to survive and do well at what we do. And the thing is, they're doing it in a manner where it's actually going to make us look bad. Thank you, Clifford. Like, people are going to think that we are just raising our prices to be ripoffs and evil and assholes, rather than the fact that they've made it almost impossible to get stuff anymore. Okay. Where's the end of this? Yeah. Anyway, my point being here, you got to be really careful with this shit. Like, I think if you're an employer that doesn't have a punch clock, you kind of have to be active and, like, tap everybody on the shoulder. Hey, did you do any overtime? Hey, did you do any overtime? And then you got to look at them again. And, like, I saw you stay an extra 10 minutes the other day. What was that? And, like, you really got to beat it out of them. And here's the thing. You can't shame people for doing overtime. You can, again, by all means, you can tell people, like, this, you can go, how to put this? I'm trying to figure out the right way to phrase this. If somebody is not able to do a job in a particular allotted time period, what I used to do is I used to actually try and do their job and see if it was something that was doable. So, for instance, there was this one shipping clerk I had like 5 or 7 years ago that was saying, like, it's just impossible to get all of this stuff done inside of 8 hours. So I came to the store one day and I tried, and it took, that day it took 1 hour and 10 minutes. And I'm like, okay, you said you can't do this in 8 hours. I did 1 hour and 10 minutes. Nah. There's another time that I tried to do somebody's job. This is about right after the COVID period, about 2.5 years ago. And it took me like 10 hours to do their job. And it's like, I don't know how I've been expecting you to fit this into an 8-hour day. This is a mess. So if you see somebody's constantly doing overtime and you don't want them to do overtime, what I would suggest is you try actually doing their job and figuring out, is your system as a company screwed up, or is this person simply not living up to the task? But you cannot have people there and have them not get paid to do work. Anyone who grew up in Poland in the 80s and 90s pretty much grew up in poverty. The Polish are insanely hardworking. Bro, I'm aware. Yeah, Chris is insanely hardworking. It's also, Paul was Polish as well. But Chris came here actually from Poland. He moved here, I think, in 2019 and came to work here immediately. Yeah, he's a very hardworking dude. He used to use a Skotal IR6000 to do BGA rework. That's how hardworking he is. I have one of those. You know how many successful board repairs I have with the Skotal IR6000? 0. None. Because that thing's a piece of shit. So anyway, it's very easy for you to inadvertently create the type of culture where people are afraid to do that. And you can't do that. You can't. If you're mad that somebody works too slow, you have a conversation with them. And if that doesn't work out, then eventually you let them go. But you can't just do this shit where you guilt people into working for free. Like, that just doesn't work. It's shitty. And I don't think you get to say, well, I encourage people to, you really have to kind of check out what your managers are doing, have an idea of what your managers are doing, when you're not there to see what they're doing, to see if they're actually trying to talk people out of working. I don't know. Anyway. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I think a lot of this, again, like, people are complaining that they're expected to put out videos on a schedule. They're complaining that he takes pictures of cars in his parking lot and saying this belongs to my employee. Again, a lot of this is lame. The one part of this that I think has some actual meat to it is the keeping track of hours thing. Like, it's not enough to tell people make sure you clock in for that as the boss if you know that a lower level manager is giving them the death stare right after they do it. Okay, what do I got in the comments? I'll read some of your comments and we'll go over that. 40K USD for a high school entry-level job. Man, you have it good in the States. I graduated in mechatronics engineering 2 years ago, and here in Sweden I make 32K a year. I don't know what Swedish money is, though. I don't know how good it is. If the tool works, use it. Post-Soviet Poles. Dude, Chris made boards work with a Skotel IR6000 V4. That thing is the biggest piece of shit I've ever used in my life. The non-compete is only for when they're there, not after they leave. Still, I'm just, I'm really not for the non-competes. Again, if I can't, look, if you're able to make more money working somewhere else other than me, go for it. And if it's on your free time, I don't get to say what you do in your free time. Are the salary numbers recent or for them years ago? See, that's the thing. We also don't have that here. That's not here. I don't know if this is a modern salary. Yeah, that we actually don't know. Non-compete literally means we're going to pay you less than what you're worth, but what you can do. I would only sign a non-compete if I was making a stupid amount of money. Like if Nirav Patel hired me to work at Framework, and he said, I want you to put together our repair program. There's going to be a non-compete, and you're going to be making $400,000 a year, I'd say, hey, my friend, you know what? But like if I was making normal average, if I was getting 40 to 60K a year, even 100K a year, like fuck that. Only if I was making if I was making a stupid amount of money, like fine, non-compete. Where's Oreo? He's probably upstairs bothering people. He's probably nuzzling Dan and Patrick's ankle. It's not an ironclad anti-compete clause. It just depends on the content. I don't like non-competes. $28 an hour is a bad deal if you're doing 90% of the work and your boss gets $280 an hour. Oh, that's some communistic shit right there. Linus has explained the non-compete before while they are working. There, he doesn't want them to use LTT's image to build their own brand while there. At least that's the explanation. Might just be his excuse. I don't know. I never give a shit about this. Let's see if I can find it. So like this guy, where's my old technician's channel? God rest his soul. This is a guy who used to work here. He used to work for my business. He did a great job. He was a great technician in my opinion. He did really good work. He was very fast. He was very methodical. He was very clean. He was very disciplined. And that's him using my camera on my workbench, showing how to do work on a machine and promoting his own company. And that's not check out rossmangroup.com. Let's check out his website. I don't know. I never thought, oh my God, I'm going to go under because this one employee, like if I spend 7 years building a business, because I think the business was it existed for 7 years, and like one dude with 5 subscribers is able to take my business away from me, then fuck, I haven't done anything worthwhile. LTT lost my respect when it became clear they'll never care about addressing the misinformation they frequently spread on the channel to generate some sort of drama or controversy. I don't know what you mean by misinformation. But if you give an example, you don't have to pay to. You can just leave it in the normal chat and I'll eventually get to it. Yeah, I mean, if he's able to earn money on the side, then by all means, like, he got you. Like, I can pay you this much money. I feel bad that I can't pay you more. Like, I'd like to be able to pay you 50 or $100 an hour, but I can't. So if you're able to use, this stuff to be able to help you make more money on the side, then that's fine by me. Like, I want you to make more money. If you make more money, you'll be happy. Your family will be happy. If your family's happier, then you're probably going to be happier when you come to work, which means that you'll do a better job. Like, really, I don't mind. $28 an hour is a bad deal if you're doing 90% of the work. Nah, like, yeah, your boss is the one paying the rent, utilities, insurance, CPA when New York City and state tries to fuck you with a 2.5-year-long audit. There's a lot that you get when you get a job that people don't appreciate. Like, the work is just there for you. It just shows up, and then somebody else handles your customer service, and somebody else handles your chargeback. Like, there's so much that goes into just creating the basic fundamental structure for you to actually do work. This attitude is why you're a good person, and Linus has 100 employees and drives a Porsche. Don't assume that I'm a good person. That's actually... this is actually a video that I did a while ago. And this is... I should link this in the comments, actually, before people start getting the wrong idea. Here we go. I never assume I am the good guy, and here is why. Here, we'll link this here. Don't want you people getting the wrong idea about me. Nice clickbait title. You're just triggered. You're a triggered little snowflake. The title is 100% correlated to what I'm discussing in the video. NZ fade, we call that cope. I don't know if that's cap or cope. I'm not up on the stuff that kids use these days. Thanks for keeping it real and being reasonable. Respect. Thank you, Joshua Flew. I recognize you. I recognize that guy. He's a cool guy. You should check out his channel. Yeah. He has a bunch of funny stuff on it. I don't know if we'd always agree with each other. So I'm the evil business owner. And he is, I guess, coming at things from the opposite of the evil business owner's side, but much so appreciated. Hilarious when Linus talked against piracy. I actually know now about sponsor block. True Streisand effect, bro. You know what's funny? Like, he says that ad block is piracy. All of you get fucking YouTube vanced and never see ads again. I tell people, use NewPipe to view YouTube. You should use NewPipe to view YouTube. And then in the same video, people are bitching about getting ads in my content. So it's truly Streisand effect here. Cat tax. Also, didn't Linus literally go through something like this with a non-compete he got lucky with? Oh, you're talking about the original company, NZ, the N, whatever the hell, I think it starts with an N. The place that he worked at before he started working, before he started his own channel. Damn, I'm behind by 20 minutes in chat. Welcome to employment. I've worked for a number of CEOs making 20 times more than me, yet I've been treated fairly and fine with the salary and working conditions. Yeah, again, like, okay, you get $60,000 a year. Like, I get it. You want to make more. I get it. You know, the boss with 10 million subscribers gets more money than the person that got hired as a writer. But, like, that's normal average stuff. That's normal average stuff. That's the clickbait title. Nope. Accurate title. It is a question that we are answering. Accurate title, Kipna. That is cope. I believe the cope is the right word, not cap. Cope is when you lie to yourself. Cap is when you lie to others. I think that's how it is. It stops people using Linus. Oh, let's see. Are you accepting invite to LTX 2023? Yes. I'll get to meet the evil man in person. Feels like cancel culture going on opinion. Honestly, it just seems like a bad Glassdoor review. Like, there's nothing about this that I'm pissed off about. Like, okay, this one over here is like one of the things I'd poke him and say, hey man, you may want to take a look at that. Or, but like the rest, like this is, I'm surprised this got 9,000 upvotes in his own subreddit. This isn't that bad. Like, you know, my boss, okay, my manager drives a Tesla. Boo-hoo. Like, I get $60,000 a year in my first year of employment as a writer for a YouTube channel. Boo-hoo. Again, the only thing here that is, oh, I can't work from home. Okay, fine, whatever. It's not the, again, this is not like he's beating people, you know? My biggest issue with this post is every single piece of information provided seems to be public info and verifiable. I could have written it theoretically, and I haven't been in BC in 15 years. Yeah, there's that too. When a tech tips channel starts making and selling underwear, they've lost the plot. Note to self, start selling underwear. Linus Wanshow explained that due to their industry multimedia, the tax code is stupid. They have to amortize salaries over the years, and royalties are a part of salaries too. It's a crap show. I'm glad I have not hired anybody on the YouTube side. Thank God. Employers actually have a carrot and not just a stick. Yes, the carrot works way better than the stick. Let's see. I wouldn't be surprised if Linus gets audited because of this. Well, I'm sure that the government in there is better than the government in New York. Do you do bonuses every year, or you did a really great job this year? It's not based on the job that people do. It's based on whether I made good money this year. So there were 2 years where instead of giving people bonuses, I gave them IOUs on a piece of Post-it note. And okay, to be clear, I've always made good on those. So if a year we lost money and I gave people IOUs, I made good on them in the years where we do. But yeah, it's usually not based on performance and based on money that's earned. Destiny's crack dealer says Linus milks his workers for every ounce of labor. Probably so do I. So do I. Go visit Poland. Your president's already there, says Amelia. Maybe. I think Chris lying to you. Maybe he didn't really want to spend time with his wife on Christmas, so he pretends he needed to do work to justify the bonus. Shh, John. We don't talk about that. Sounds like maybe Polish marriages are similar to Italian ones then. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. What's the status on right to repair advocate in Texas? There is none. I have 7 states I'm juggling already. If Linus is a bad employer, why have so many of his staff had such a long tenure? There's a lot of script review involved for each script published. You might have hired a competent writer. I work for a small company. I've never been asked to sign an NDA or a non-compete, and I work in an industry where we have very few competitors. I've never been a fan of the non-compete. It's just, yeah, it's something about it just feels weird to me. So yeah, that's the other question. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna do the steel man of the employee side as the evil employer side here. So you could have, let's say, a core staff that you like, which is like the in crowd, and then the new people, which are the out crowd, and the in crowd, which are the newer, which are the old timers, get treated differently than the new people. But again, you're right. Like if people have been there for a long period of time, then it probably speaks to you being a good employer. You can shame them into not collecting money that they worked hard for and be vigilant about it. And yes, that's way easier said than done. It's doable. It's doable without even realizing you're doing it too. If you're constantly telling people work faster, work faster, work faster, we have to get this done. The company's losing money. By the way, report all your overtime. Fuck, why aren't you working faster? By the way, the company's losing money. By the way, report all your overtime. Fuck, why aren't you done? You know, it's very easy to inadvertently create that type of environment where people feel shame for actually getting the money that they're fucking legally entitled to. This happens when people do actions without a root purpose in life. Huh? Chris is a guy who cherishes the job. Very much so. Also, hello, Julie. How are you? What are you doing on the F train, Julie? What are you, nuts? Are you out of your fuck? You gotta live by a train that makes sense. Live by the N train, Julie. Live by the N. Might be a thing in the Anglosphere in the UK. Every company I've ever worked for has made me sign an NDA. Might be the same for Cuck and... Well, hello. Thank you for the £5. There's a guy on YouTube who does septic pumping, and he does the same as you. If the boss can beat you and he has numerous health issues, then maybe you shouldn't be there, his words. You can tell this whoever wrote this Reddit post has almost no work experience. Maybe mid-20s, basically just describing an average job. Yeah, again, like this post is essentially describing like, okay, there are things expected of me. I get paid only 20 or 30% over minimum wage, and my boss posts things on social media that I think may portray him to be nicer or more generous than he actually is. Like, welcome to work, my friends. I'm sorry, like, welcome to fucking work. That's reality. Yeah, again, there's only one thing in this entire thread that I would say. Again, this. Like, that's the only thing. The only thing. Okay, where'd I leave off? Damn it. I lost all the chat from 740 to 748. Oh well. Hello, AS Repairs, and thank you for contributing lots of really good graphics card stuff to the wiki. I nearly screwed you guys by going to hospital for injuring myself in a do-it-yourself repair, giving do-it-yourself a bad name. My apologies. I will not accept your apology. If you go to the hospital, you better lie about what it is that got you there. If you say it was the iPhone screen that cut your venture, oh, no, you're not doing that. I heard Linus once saying, and if anyone gets official with him in correspondence, they're done. People have to address him informally, no email. I've never heard that before. I don't know where you're getting that from. Your subreddit basically hates him now. I don't know, probably kind of like my old Discord. We do it to ourselves. We do it to ourselves, FOB. FOB 911. I'll buy your underwear. Okay, maybe we have an idea for merchandise. He gets 5K a month for writing on a YouTube channel. Yes. I hear a cat. Oh yeah, that's Barry. She wants attention. If she wanted attention, she could come over here and be on the chair like Clinton. Or here, Clinton's. Hey, stop scratching my couch, you... She's not getting attention, so she's scratching my couch. What? Most of your boohoo comments are just now the same reaction I have. Interesting, Josh. Okay. Don't forget, Linus has often said if employees have an issue, they can go to his wife to resolve it, who he sleeps with. I mean, does it really make a difference if the manager is, like, if you have an issue, okay, I guess I can see that. If I was having sex with Steve, I could see how that would make things much more awkward for people if I told them to go to Steve to resolve their issues with me. This is why I don't have sex with Steve. Don't forget, Linus has often said if employees have an issue with him, they can, yeah. Well, you say hi to the cat. Maybe. The job of the boss is way more relevant for smaller businesses than large ones. The CEO of a big corp is basically just an idea guy, and so the pay is inexcusable. Same with the board of investors. See, I may almost actually disagree with you there. Like, your job at that level is to make decisions, and those decisions matter a lot more. Like, let's just take the Walmart CEO, right? Let's say that's like, 10 or 20 million bucks a year. Let's say we just slice him up, right? We just take him, do the French Revolution, guillotine, and distribute his salary amongst the workers. What are they getting? Like 10 bucks a year? Really? Like, what does he get? Like 10 or 20 million bucks a year? You have 2 or 2.5 million employees. Everybody gets 10 bucks a year. Like, at that point, you're getting paid for decisions, because you making one wrong or one right decision can lead to the company making an extra $2 or $3 billion, or losing $2 or $3 billion. And you have an idiot making a decision there. The problem is, like with every other job, you don't really know whether somebody's going to do it well or not until they already have it, and you're paying them the entire time. So that's another conversation in and of itself. Whether or not that specific CEO is worth that specific salary. But in theory, if you're dealing with the ability to, swing a company's revenue $6 billion this way or $5 billion into the negative, or do something stupid that winds up getting them sued or brought before a congressional committee, then or an oversight hearing, then, it's paying them 0.0001% of your profit is a drop in the bucket. I do have a Framework laptop, and I do like my Framework laptop. Feels like the comments in the post had the gist of it from my point of view, too little information provided by the ex-employee to make a real opinion. LTT misinformation equals molecular scanner by CO that ended up being a scam. Thunder called that Linus and his response was interesting. What's a molecular scanner CO thing? I thought Linus talks about like PC cases and CPUs and graphics cards and shit. What's a molecular scanner CO? Okay, I'll be honest with you. I'm not trying to simp for Linus, but I don't go to that channel to learn about molecular scanners. I would assume that if Linus is talking about a molecular scanner, that is probably wrong, because I think of him as a guy that talks about PC hardware and cases and like TeamViewer trying to fuck him, you know? But I'll check it out. Hi, Lewis. I finally recommended your stream while it's live. Hello, Mr. Biomed. Sorry I haven't responded to your other email. I've been shit at responding to email recently. What did Linux say or do out of curiosity? It said dependency missing. Dependency missing. Okay, we're going to get close to the end. You know, one thing I forgot, since I haven't live streamed in a really long time, is I forgot that it's almost impossible to get to the end of the chat. The post comes across as a salty ex-employee. To be honest, the only complaint that comes across as valid is the timekeeping. The rest seem like someone not understanding the job. Yeah, I agree. Again, like if you want to say that, you know, $60,000 a year to be a writer in that part of the country is not an amount of money that will make you, that will buy you a house, fine. Fine. Okay. Okay, your employer said he'd like everybody that works there to be able to buy a house. And in your first year of working for the company, you can't buy a house as a writer. Okay. I don't know. I used to, as I said in my Matrix chat, you know, I used to build and cart around furniture for the Staten Island Mall for $9 an hour. That's some fucking shitty work, man. Dragging 80 to 250 pound boxes everywhere when the dolly is like this small and you have to balance the shit on there, and sometimes you just wind up pushing it, and that shit sucked. Back in my day. Back in my day. Respect and non-compete take, but I think this version only applies to competing on YouTube. You can still do anything else, just not on YouTube because of some reputation issues. Again, like if Nirav Patel came up to me from Framework and said, we want you to head up our repair division, here's $400,000 a year, I'll sign a non-compete. If somebody walks up to me and says, hey, I'll give you, you know, $50,000 or $100,000, get the fuck out of here. Again, you have to be paying me a massive amount of money to be able to get me to sign a non-compete. You've been tremendous help for me from YouTube IDs and blah, blah, blah. Just want to say thanks because I know some family is investable. Thank you. I have no way to see what that is because I can't click that, unfortunately, and copy and paste it, and I'm never going to remember it. But if you send me an email, I'll take a look at those 2 videos so that I can see what it is that you found useful, so that maybe I can figure out what made it a good video and make more of it. Thank you. I feel like this would be a non-discussion if wages weren't discussed in the WAN show and made the Tesla's tweet. Possibly. Yeah, like I've said that I feel I pay better than other repair shops, but I feel guilty that I can't pay more. I think that it's in the same vein of like what he was doing, except it's self-deprecating rather than, you know, building yourself up, so it's less likely to be criticized, but I think it's coming from the same place. I currently do timekeeping with an Excel spreadsheet for full-time. I'd rather punch in, honestly. It depends on the person. The problem with punch-ins is that nobody uses them. You can have a biometric, you can have a pin pad, you can have an app. Nobody uses it. Good luck. Good luck. I wind up shooting people with an airsoft gun, trying to, and still being driven insane. How are you enjoying not New York? It's all right. It's all right. Where am I? Where did I scroll in here? Sounds like Lewis wants 400K to do the laptop job. I'm just saying, I wouldn't say no. But like, but in all seriousness, this whole idea of like you're going to get close to minimum wage and you have to sign a non-compete, it's just fucking insulting. Lewis refused to fix my eMac. Damn fucking straight, man. The videos that don't use the F word and are you investable? Oh, thank you. Also, thank you again. It really seems like a disgruntled employee that may have problems himself, but just didn't fit in or something weird. Yeah. I wish I made 60K a year, says Josh Hall. Yeah, a conclusion, this just sounds like somebody who's salty, who probably has never had to make $9 an hour carrying thousands of pounds a day of furniture across the Staten Island fucking mall in a store that didn't have working HVAC system. Even then, I can understand the reason behind it, but it still just makes me skeeve a little bit. Like, my employees have a list of suppliers and vendors that I get stuff. Like, back when I was buying MacBook Air screens for $72, everybody else is paying $200 a screen. I was paying $72. I mean, like, Steve could have just scalped that. He could have literally scalped that and doubled it. You know, he could have said, I will sell you that screen for $150. Pay me in advance and use my vendor. I never did it. It feels weird to do that. It's like, here's the way it feels. When I have a non-compete, I'm essentially telling my employee, it sends this weird message that, like, I don't trust you and I don't value you at the same time. So I don't value you to pay you better, because that obviously somebody else out there may be able to pay you better than I can pay you, but I don't value you enough to pay you that, and I'm also not going to let anybody else do it. But I also don't trust you, and it's just, I think it creates a fucked up work environment. I don't know. Again, I'm the dude who moved across the country to save money on his semi-failing business, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. Take what I say with a entire salt shaker of salt. Pretty sure tracking employee time is necessary by law in Canada. 100% equals 40 hours or whatever. 10-hour day one, sure. Then do a 6-hour day to compensate. What's the problem? I don't think that's what I said. I don't think that was what I was talking about exactly. Any thoughts on new YouTube CEO? From what I read, it seems like that was the person that was responsible for double-clicking ads and optimization. So I kind of wonder if that's why I'm getting all these fucked up ass ads on YouTube now. Like, I'm getting all this ridiculous shit that's telling me to go date Slavic women, import Slavic women. Do you want to chat with this type of... You know what really pisses me off about YouTube? You know what really fucking gets me? Is... Yeah, I'll show you. My first job had a non-compete, but I never saw it enforced. Essentially, when you wanted to leave, you just had to ask for an exemption, they would grant it. I personally assume the worst of anything that's put on paper. So I was talking about anti-repair advertising discrimination that Google put on right after they had an interest in cell phone hardware repair. And here's the thing. You have literal human trafficking ads on YouTube, but I can't use AdWords to advertise that I fix a smartphone. So, like, me replacing a screen in a cell phone, that's dangerous. But all these ads on YouTube saying, like, you know, find a wife in Dubai or whatever, or the Philippines and all this shit, that's been showing up a lot more lately, because I usually use New Pipe, so I don't have to see any of these fucking ads on YouTube. But I tried the YouTube app a few days ago, and it's like, Jesus Christ, it's like, find a Slavic wife, find a Dubai wife, find a Filipino wife, you know, come over here. And I can't use Google. Keep in mind, I can't use Google AdWords. I have 1,500 plus 5-star reviews on their fucking Maps review platform. I can't use Google AdWords to advertise my own repair business. Like, we're going to take PP Brush G3 Hot that's 8.1 volts and turn it into 8.5 volts. That's too risque. But yeah. Anyway, I took a picture of one of them. It shows. I wish I took a picture of the Slavic woman one. It was so funny because you're like, listen, some of these ads are just like what the fuck? What the fuck? Again, it's not that bad. It's just this is the platform that's telling me I'm not allowed to post ads on repair services. Anyway. Invalid account engages in whataboutism. If you're open to it, I'd be down to have a chat, and then I think we could have more laughs and disagreements. I can 100% understand from purely watching my videos how you'd see me. It's their best email. Yeah, Lewis@rossmangroup.com. You have to spell my name right. You have to spell my name right. I'm happy to do a podcast with you. I think it'd be a very fun show. I think it'd be a cool crossover. You have to spell my name right. Lewis@rossmangroup.com. 2 S's, 2 N's. My first name has 3 vowels. But it has to be the right set of vowels. Anyway, it'll be fun. Let's do it. Let's do it. It'll be fun. We'll do a live show. Lewis down bad. Bruh. Lewis down bad. These are the ads I'm getting on YouTube. Even fucking YouTube knows I'm down bad. Joe Rogan when? Never. Yeah, how about never, Digibrat? It's going to be never. Never. Are you calling getting a Slavic woman is even... Dude, you got to see the ad, man. You got to see... You know what these ads are doing. Like, when these ads are like, come to Dubai, there's amazing women here. Or like some of these ads, what they do is they start explaining how American women are horrible, so you should come to our country, or like import one of our women because they don't have those horrible attitudes. It's like, okay, again, even if you agree with that stuff, fine, but why can't I advertise my repair services on YouTube? Why can't I advertise on YouTube? I don't know. It's because you said pee-pee bus. Maybe. Maybe. You set up a pie hole to block more ads. Yeah, I got to make time for that. Clinton, come back down, boy. Clinty? 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 All right. See y'all later. Bye now.